The Western Conference will have a lot of unhappy teams at the end of this. LeBron James going to the Lakers won't swing the balance of power in the conference unless Kawhi Leonard comes with him, but it does throw the hierarchy out west even further out of W. A weird imbalance exists among the 15 teams. They all want to win now. There isn't a single franchise in the conference like the Magic, Hawks, or the Bulls in the East, all of whom are punting on the in order to build for the future. But therein lies the problem. The NBA isn't Lake Wobegon. Everyone can't be above average. Something has to give. For all the talk about how deep the West is, there still aren't any legitimate title contenders outside of the Warriors and the Rockets, as things stand today. What the conference does have is an extremely large middle class, and a swell of teams hungry to get out of the basement. There were only 7 games, separating the number 3 and number 10 seeds last, and the 5 teams that finished at the bottom of the conference are all trying to accelerate their rebuilding processes. It's not a situation that can last for long. There aren't many owners who will pay the luxury tax for a team that finishes with the number 11 seed, and all-star caliber players won't spend the prime of their careers on those teams, either. The end result is going to be a free-for-all in the middle of the standings. The regular, at least out west, should be interesting because so much is on the line for so many franchises. There are at least half-dozen teams that could be blown apart if things go badly, and several more that could really regret going all in on this if they don't end up making a big leap. Consolidation of talent is coming out west, and the difference between being a franchise in position to add pieces in what should be a wild 2019 off-season and starting over will come down to a few games. The safe bets Golden State and Houston are in a category of their own. The Warriors are a virtual all-NBA team, while the Rockets have James Harden and Chris Paul locked up for the rest of their primes. Neither team is going anywhere. There are only 3 other teams in the West that can feel comfortable about their futures: Utah, Oklahoma City, and the LA Lakers. The Jazz have Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert under team control for at least 3 more years, while LeBron doesn't have an option in his contract with the Lakers until year 4. The Thunder dodged a bullet when Paul George resigned, but it's going to hit a few other teams out west There just aren't enough spots in the middle of the conference for every team that needs to the top 8. Playoffs are bust. Few teams have had a more interesting offseason than New Orleans, which essentially replaced DeMarcus Cousins and Rajon Rondo with Julius Randle and Elfrid Payton. The rationale behind those moves was discovered last year after Cousins tore his Achilles. The Pelicans traded for Nikola Mirotic and set Anthony Davis and Jrue Holiday loose on offense, and watched as their team blossomed. Now, just a few days into the offseason, they've rounded out their starting lineup with younger and more athletic players. The question is whether these moves will be enough to keep Davis happy, since he has only 2 years left on his deal and has won 1 playoff series in 7s in New Orleans. Every contender in the league is clearing the decks for him, so the Pelicans can't afford to regress. Portland has an uneasy relationship with Damian Lillard, who went public with his gripes about the team's direction last. They have been in limbo since losing LaMarcus Aldridge, and there isn't an obvious path out of the salary cap hell they put themselves in during the summer of 2016. Money issues already cost them a key piece, Ed Davis, off their bench, and they could lose 2 more, Shabazz Napier and Pat Connaughton. Their only hope is the development of Zach Collins, whom they took with number 10 overall pick in last year's draft to be their center of the future. If they miss the playoffs, Dame may demand a trade. Jimmy Butler isn't the face of the franchise in Minnesota like Davis is in New Orleans and Dame is in Portland, but letting him walk next summer would be just as devastating, since the Wolves gave up 3 lottery talents to get to him. Butler didn't click with Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins, and he has already said that the ability to contend for a championship will be his primary consideration in free agency. Minnesota doesn't have the cap space to address its lack of three-point shooting and perimeter defense. If head coach Tom Thibodeau doesn't trust GM Thibodeau and play the 2 wings Josh Okogie and Keita Bates-Diop he just drafted, he could end up losing both jobs next summer. The Kroenke family, which owns the Denver Nuggets, just opened up the checkbook to keep his team together, paying Nikola Jokic and Will Barton a combined $202 million in long-term salaries over the weekend. Those deals put their payroll to about $145 million which would give them a whopping luxury tax bill of more than $50 million. The Nuggets will be better if Paul Millsap plays more than 38 games, but that's still an awful lot of money for a team that may not get home court advantage in the first round. They will have to package future first-round picks and promising young players to move the deadweight deals of guys like Kenneth Faried, Darrell Arthur, Mason Plumlee, and Wilson Chandler. Miss the playoffs again, and heads could roll throughout the organization. Even the bad teams expect to be good. Memphis won only 22 games last, but it's still holding on to the glory days of the grit and grind era for as long as it can. Grizzlies owner Robert Perra even said in an interview that he expects them to be a 50-win team. It's hard to start over when they owe so much money to Mark Gasol, Mike Conley Jr., and Chandler Parsons. Even worse, they owe a first-round pick to the Celtics courtesy of a trade deadline deal for Jeff Green in 2015 that is top 8 protected in 2019, top 6 protected in 2020, and completely unprotected in 2021. That pick could hurt the franchise if it doesn't convey this. A team with the number 1 overall pick is normally closer to the beginning of a rebuild than the end, but Phoenix is dead set on competing immediately despite drafting a 19-year-old center DeAndre Ayton whose defense is nowhere near playoff caliber. They traded an unprotected first-round pick from the Heat in 2021 to acquire the rights to Michael Bridges, a polished upperclassman who should be able to play a big role as a rookie, and they gave 33-year-old Trevor Ariza a 1-year, $15 million contract to further improve their floor spacing and perimeter defense. Suns GM Ryan McDonough, in his 6th without a playoff berth, can't afford to be patient any longer. It's the same story for Dallas, which dealt a top 5 protected first-round pick in 2019 to move up from number 5 to number 3 overall and take Luka Doncic rather than absorb a bad contract Kent Bazemore that would tie up cap space next summer. Patience has never been a virtue for Mavericks owner Mark Cuban, who is hoping that Doncic is the rare rookie who can instantly improve a team. A team that signs a 30-year-old DeAndre Jordan to a 1-year, $24 million deal is trying to win now. The Mavs think they hit the jackpot by drafting Dennis Smith Jr. and Doncic in 2 trips to the lottery, and they don't want to make a third. Sacramento has no choice but to push all its chips in this, thanks to an ill-fated trade to clear cap space in 2015 that cost it an unprotected first-round pick in 2019. The Kings have been the laughingstock of the league for the last decade, and they don't want to give either Boston or Philadelphia, the 2 possible recipients of the pick, another top 5 selection. The Kings spent a lot of money in free agency on veteran leadership to little effect last, and there's no guarantee anything will change if they try again this offseason. They'd better hope that Marvin Bagley III, the number 2 overall pick in the draft, complements the young core they have in place. They won't get another impact young player out of the draft until 2020, at the earliest. The wild cards: there are 2 teams out west that don't fit easily into any of the first 3 categories, and both should be competitive next, barring a fire sale. San Antonio is in limbo until it resolves the Kawhi Leonard situation. However, the Spurs resigned Rudy Gay and added Marco Bellinelli in free agency, so they don't appear interested in starting over. When you consider how little Kawhi contributed last, the Spurs could improve upon their 47-win campaign with the bounty of talented, young players they would get in a deal for their disgruntled star. And who knows, maybe Kawhi will play out there with San Antonio. Stranger things have happened in the NBA. The Clippers are the only team out west who may want to be in the lottery. They owe a first-round pick to the Celtics that is lottery protected in 2019 and 2020 if it isn't conveyed by then. The Clippers will instead give up a second-round pick in 2022. And after turning over their entire roster in a little over a year, they don't have any player they are tied to. However, they return the core of a 42-win team from last, and guys like Tobias Harris and Lou Williams give them enough talent to be frisky. There won't be many easy wins out west.